What's up, everybody? My name is Maxa-ude, aka Brandon. This is episode 68 of the Anime Dojo. I'm alongside Chris and Deon. Gentlemen, how you doing?
Tired.
Doing great.
And I could see that sentiment from Chris because as of this past weekend, we just got back from Anime Matsuri 2024, our first time going as a group to Houston, Texas to see this anime convention. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Mecha-ude, the premiere we went to at the convention. They showed off the first two episodes of that anime and kind of had the director and one of the producers there to talk about what they were doing with the anime. Also, we're going to go through the anime charts for Anime Corner and the chart that Chris sends out, which is from Reddit, the Reddit chart. But then we'll get into the episodes. Shy, episode 18, and Dungeon People, episode 5. Let's start off with this, gentleman. I'm going to ask this first to Chris. Chris, what did you think about Anime Matsuri as a whole? And what was your biggest takeaway from Anime Matsuri?
Okay, bro. So one of the events that I enjoyed the most was the actual for the first time. Like I said, I actually enjoyed walking around the exhibit hall. Man, it has to be noted, and it's probably one of the greatest things that I like, especially the difference between Akon, is that there was so much more room to move around and actually without being surrounded by everybody and their kids and their mama and then everybody's skin rubbing up against skin and other stuff that cosplays are made out of. Bro, that was and you like really got to like walk around, like, bro. We all got in at least 15,000 steps in every day.
Yes, you are right. That is the one thing I will say. That yeah, you were walking. We were walking a lot. I averaged. I can actually look it up, but I won't. I averaged one day 21,000 steps, and I was over the whole day. I averaged about 10,000 before we got through half the day. Um, walking around, just kind of having the space you needed to do the stuff you needed. Deon, what do you think about anime series as a whole? What was your biggest takeaway? Do you kind of agree with Chris, the exhibit hall, or do you have another take you can go with?
And you know what? I honestly believe my biggest attraction and takeaway was how many people actually participated in all the events and the cosplaying, and there wasn't one dead event that we went to.
Oh no, you're right.
Um,
Um,
There was a bunch of people all around enjoying themselves, just the camaraderie and the enjoyment, the joy that everybody experienced.
I, that's the other thing about this con, and I think Chris will partially agree with this. And I'll say this with everybody respect. I think we all agree the people just walking around, you can just talk to people so easily. It felt like a family without being a family. It felt like you could just walk up and just start talking and have a genuine conversation. The one example I'll give, and it's one example I think um, there's a couple examples, but one example I can give right off the top of my head is when we talked to this guy who was dressed in like all like tactical gear, looked like Ghost from Call of Duty Ghost, without the full like Ghost mask, like the actual mask they wear. But I'm like, no, you did the thing that I like because you did the actual like pull up mask with the Ghost little face on it. And he said I made this by the way. He shows us a Dragon Ball Z version of like Goku and Vegeta with the tactical gear. I'm like, that could be in a game right now. That could literally just be a thing. You could do it. And me and Chris were just kind of like, he just made it himself, and he kind of talked about he enjoyed making it. It felt like he people were enjoying what other people have made. Do you agree with that, Chris?
Absolutely.
Um, I think the other
I
thing
mean,
about this
even the
con,
staff were easily approachable and stuff.
ding, 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 ding. There was the other thing.
Like I sat there and had like a 20-minute conversation with one of the security guards.
Y'all both
about
did.
chicken.
We talked to that one lady for a bit, and then we talked to the gentleman that was going to his son's birthday party after he was getting off, and it was just like people were very friendly. It was oddly surprising. And I don't remember, Chris, do you remember what one thing about Akon I didn't think was always great is the fact that Akon people are very
Pushy.
yes,
Yep.
hit or miss. Pushy is a good word. I'll say hit or miss.
But see,
Um,
I feel like because of the room that everybody had in over in the Anime Matsuri makes people less what's the word I'm looking for? Less irritated.
ding,
Irritable,
You see
yeah.
what I'm saying?
ding, ding, ding.
Yeah.
There you go. There you go. Um,
They
it's
had enough
And
space to where if they want to be bothered with people, they could, but they could separate themselves. And they had the rooms open where you and your friends could go and just chill and like talk. I seen a lot of people like sitting away from everybody on the stairs when it was, time to sit down and chill, but then they would join like the karaoke bar and stuff when it was time to party. There was no hate. It was all love, but I mean, everybody needed their space.
yeah,
and
you're right.
if you wanted space, you found it, and if you was ready to be around people, you found it.
Correct. I think the other big thing I noticed, and it was something that I thought was really surprising, and I hate to use my friend for this, and I do. I'm going to use my former roommate for this. His cousin. I'm going to bring this up. When we went in the dealer room with Akon, I felt bad for him because he got kind of not scammed. I won't put it that way. He got duped into buying something. He could bought something probably cheaper somewhere else. Ultimately, here I love the fact that people weren't super pushy with that. That was the one thing I was like, oh, they're not super pushy with it. At the same time, I think Deon brought up the point that I think a lot of people bring up later. It is hard pressed to find what you're looking for because prices are going to be really high, but also markup of things. So you can kind of tell you have to do your shopping. And that's the thing about most cons: shop around first. Don't buy stuff right off the bat unless you know you're going to get it. You can just get it right away. So I think that was the other thing I really kind of was like, okay, cool. You're not feeling like you are getting pushed into buying something. You're just looking, trying to see what you can find, have pricing decisions, all that kind of stuff. Um, the last big thing I want to say is I think the other thing I've learned is that this Dion said it best. This con does one thing I think most cons can't do. This was an 18 plus con for the most part. I'll type that giant quotation marks because really it is family friendly to a point. We saw a lot of kids on Saturday. We saw a few on Friday, but ultimately, this con pushes you to be one of those things where you're you're gonna be around older people. You're gonna be around 20, 25, up in the 30s, people who are there for a certain reason, and that's what this con is built for. Not built for the younger crowd that much, but it's built for that older crowd. Dion, what were you gonna say?
Don't get me wrong. Those younger kids were so adorable. The little Nezuko.
Yes, the Nezuko we had. Um, I think we saw a score. I think I saw somebody dressed as like a little like Vegeta or something at one point. A couple other characters were built in too. Um, I, I want you to finish your point, Dion, in a second when you get unmuted. But what I think the thing is, I think they knew the boundaries. I think for the most part for kids, but I could be wrong. Um, Chris, what was your kind of takeaway with that kind of part of it?
Well, I mean, the exhibit hall was friendly, and they had and if for things that weren't family friendly, they had it behind a black wall.
Yep.
I like that.
Yep.
Okay. And then furthermore, any events that were where the topic would have been more mature, more adult, they had wristbands for everybody. Like Brandon, me and you And then we all sat and had a whole conversation about how genius that was and how it could be made better.
Oh, absolutely.
Nobody in Akon was doing that. So I actually feel like this place had a less you had a less time for or less opportunity for kids to find something that was inappropriate.
Yes, I do think that's also a thing of like planning because the way Akon does it in a sense where they check your ID. So if you go, they check your ID to make sure you're over 18. The other thing was, I remember we went last year to that VTuber thing, and there was that dad and little boy. It was kind of odd because I think he was asking questions of the staff member, and then we were about to all walk in and kind of think and got to get started. It it feels like if you do the ID check, somebody could not tell the truth, but ultimately that's on you. Here's the flip side from Surrey. They go, you have to come to us to get the wristband. It covers you the whole weekend. If you need new ones, you can get them all the time. As long as your ID and your ID, is valid and all that kind of stuff, you're good to go. That's the way to fix that. Oh, just anybody can walk up. I also think too, and I'll let Deon continue this point because I know he wanted to continue this point for it. I also think too, the other big thing we noticed, I think I noticed more about this con than most other ones, is that like Dan brought up where we were talking in the room one night, he asked me, was there a title sponsor? I'm like, no, it's all self-employed. The company is owned by the husband and wife team. They've been doing this for years. They don't have, there's no other like sponsor to them. There's no other, vendor, all that kind of stuff. I think that's an interesting way of doing it because I think that's them trying to make sure that nobody else gets involved where they have to go a certain direction with it, more family friendly or more, whatchamacallit.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
That's a real good.
Deon, finish your point because you said you saw the little girl that was dressed in Nezuko. What were you trying to talk about there?
Just that although, and I'll tie it into something else that we were saying, like the wristbands. Although it was a lot of things that weren't family friendly, it didn't feel like it was anything irresponsible of the convention. It felt like they handled everything very well as far as what the kids could see and go to. Like even the events were all in private rooms. Not only did you have to go, like there was no way a little kid could just accidentally walk into a room that was doing like the waifu debates or something like Um
Correct.
also with the convention or the exhibit, uh there was so much space in there that even stuff that, of course, a couple vendors might have had some things that were a little lewd or, trying to get those look-ons, but no one really walked around and just was like, "Oh my God, what is this?" Or what? Like it was very, 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 very responsibly handled. Even the convention themselves, or I guess the runner would uh like the sign or the picture you guys remember seeing, he had to cover up one of the pictures that he had hanging because they said it was not inappropriate, but it wasn't safe for work.
Yeah, I remember that, which
you
was,
know
but you also
And then
probably,
when we saw it, it didn't look like it was that bad.
there we go. And you brought up the
but
point because
see,
I remember
it
Deon
didn't
even
look like it was that bad, but I appreciate the fact of them at least thinking about stuff like that.
Yeah.
Correct. I remember you mentioned the fact that they thought, there's other things around here that's a little more risky. And I remember you mentioned that to me and Chris while we were walking around, Deon. And I also remembered the thing that I kind of think is also kind of interesting and something that I think will kind of have to be kind of balanced out. The other thing you've noticed, and I think I noticed it more this year than I did last year, the last couple of years I went to account the things. people use their Instagram so well to promote themselves, even though a lot of Instagrams are very not safe for work for the most part. So it's kind of like it's a way to network and get new fans, but also it's a way to do things. You could do certain things to try to use that platform to do other things. And I think the other big takeaway I have to give them so much credit for, the one thing about the app that I enjoyed, the app was always working pretty well. The fact they updated us when things changed, and it never felt like you were out of the loop when things did change. It was always ready to like tell you, oh, something changed. Here's what changed. Here's why it changed. Things like that. And it kind of gave you a sense of like, okay, they are prepared if things kind of go awry. I'm gonna ask you gentlemen both this before we kind of get to our wrap up for this little part because it's actually pretty interesting. I want to know this part. Give me your one event that you thought that you really enjoyed, or give me one thing that you think they can do better. And I'll start out for Chris for this.
One thing that I enjoyed, or one thing that they could have done better.
Correct.
As far as things I enjoyed, I enjoyed the idea of having events separated by age and not just everybody being able to enter every event. I really did enjoy that.
Okay. Okay. Deon, to you, one event that you enjoyed, and then maybe one thing they could or a thing they could do better. Either one.
Okay. Um, One event that I enjoyed was the live podcast.
Okay.
When we were able to do the live podcast with the crew that hopefully we'll be able to do more with them, because that was actually pretty fun. Um, but I will say I really, really, really enjoyed the fact of having not just checking the IDs, but having the 18 and up wristbands. Although I feel like they should make that mandatory.
When you
I feel
okay,
like
Agreed.
when you say
no matter
mandatory,
what,
what do you mean?
yeah, like if you're there and you're 18 and up, you should have a wristband.
Oh,
Like
okay,
not
okay,
not
okay.
only if you want to go into this area with it. I feel like if you're there and you're 18 and up, you should have to have a wristband. It kind of from a vendor aspect of it'll make things a lot easier and simpler. Um, so from somebody's aspect of going into in certain areas, or like how we had certain tables in certain areas that weren't 100% safe for work, as a vendor or as a customer, you can kind of navigate that traffic a little better if
Mm-hmm.
you know, like, because let's be real, there's a lot of people walking around that looks 12 and they're really adults,
Yeah.
but then there's vice versa. There's a lot of, you know, 10-year-olds walking around that look like they're 23. So
Yeah.
as a
Yeah.
vendor, and this is just something that I was talking to a vendor about, so that's why I'm really bringing it up. It's like I don't know what to sell you or what you can't buy. It's not like I have any standards as far as, like, I'm not selling alcohol here, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So it
I
just kind of makes it easier for that vendor.
I think the thing because we talked about this I think one night walking back to the room one night and we kind of or walking to the con and not back to the room to the con. You kind of mentioned the fact that they should do different wristband colors. Under 18 should be a different color. 21, 18 and up should be a color, and then 21 and up should be a different color. And I like the
Yeah.
idea with that because it's kind of like you're balancing out the fact if they have this color, they're under 18. If they have this color, they're over 18, but they have this color, they're over 21. And that's the weird thing I'm going to mention because, like, one thing I did enjoy ultimately, I will say the Mecha-ude Premiere. We're talking about that in a second. I thought Nerd Less was fun, but that's also one where I'm like, ooh, that can be misconstrued because that's kind of like the where it gets Deon's point of like, you look 21, but you're actually 15, but you look 15, but you're actually 23. Like, that's a whole misconstruing thing. of like, oh, that person doesn't match the actual, what they look like. But on the flip side of that coin too, I think the other thing we kind of noticed, and I think Chris and you, can both attest to this, is the fact that we were walking around. You never felt like security was always walking around, but you did see them. And the thing is, it also felt like they weren't like overly like protective of things. Like, and me and Chris saw this at Acon last year. They did a weapons check, they did a cosplay check, and they did a bag check. Only one they did here is the weapons check. And that's even very minimal because they didn't do the only rule that applies to weapon check, you can't carry metal around. Pretty much anything else goes for the most part. But it's on you. But the other two didn't really matter because you're cosplaying, you're doing your thing. I think it is funny though. I didn't want the bag check because I didn't think it's necessary because you're putting it to the people. I didn't want the cosplay check because you're putting it to the people to have their cosplay, let them do what they want with it. But you also could see a lot of cosplays were more tame and stayed tame for the most part. It didn't go over that line. But go on, what you're gonna say, Deon?
Oh, I was just gonna say, when it did get untamed, it was when it was supposed to be. Nobody was just walking around the exhibit hall.
Correct.
Like they wouldn't walk around anywhere else,
Correct. That is one thing I appreciate because even when we went to Club AM, which is their like rave party thing at night, it started at 12:30 a.m., goes till 3. That's when you saw a lot of people do more of their risky little cosplays, risky clothing. A lot of people having more fun with that, and it's all adults at that point. So it's like 18 up, what you're dealing with.
18 and up event.
Yeah, so you know who you're dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
Same with, I think, the other rave that was on Thursday night did that. So you could see what you're getting into. But at the same time, I think also the other thing I really did notice, we all talked to that group that was the girl that dressed as Morgan, the guy that was Evil Ryu, and the Ryu. And it was interesting because they mentioned something that I thought was really interesting. We were just talking to him, having a chill conversation. Huh?
I said, shout out Texas Aries. They were that was hot. That
was cool. I appreciate that.
Next time we gotta get you some contacts that you can see in, buddy.
Yeah, I felt bad. I felt bad when he did tell us that. He's like, I can't see out these contacts, but I'm like, that makes sense because most colored contacts you can't see out naturally.
Yeah, but he did definitely talk me out of wanting to get some though.
Yeah, he talks to most people getting some. But that conversation was interesting because the thing we got all weekend was that people asked us, "Are y'all local?" I'm like, no, we're from Dallas, and they were kind of taken aback because they're like, I've heard, and I think a couple people were like, "Wow, a lot of people came out of Dallas," but Chris brought up a good point, and I remember before we went, he brought this point, and I'll bring it here. A lot of people went to this con because Dallas didn't have a major con this year. A-Con was not happening, so for a lot of people, this is one of the few times where they would have to go outside of Dallas to find a con. Outside of anime, I think Anime Frontiers is in a couple weeks. That's not that big comparatively. So it was like you saw a lot of people come out of the state, come out from Dallas-Fort Worth or other parts of Texas to come out there, or even people from California, Chicago. It was just insane. You're just like, okay, this con got some traction, and you know why. I will say this because I'm gonna bring this. I brought this quote up. Go ahead, Deon. While I bring this up,
I was just gonna say the one thing that was a common occurrence was the fact that we had a bunch of vendors who were a little disgruntled with Anmie Matsuri. So yeah, maybe you guys should look into your vendor contracts a little better.
I also think that was also a bad thing because go ahead.
I was just gonna say maybe not invite vendors that you're not going to promote or you don't want to promote. Or let them know that you're not going to promote them and allow them to promote themselves. But
I'm
not a vendor. I'm just
No, I'm gonna bring this up because you're bringing it up anyway. I'll bring it up before I get to this quote. That also kind of goes to the problem of cosplaying, and I'm putting it to you this way. He brought it up. He brought up the finger thing. I'm bringing the cosplay side. There were so many cosplayers out there. Half of them, personally, because I followed their Twitter, I did. I followed their Twitter up to the end, up through this year, rest of this year, up to the con. I think half of them didn't get promoted, or more than half, based on what I saw, if I remember correctly. Twitter, Instagram, whatever. It's odd to me when you don't promote that well enough, and yet both of these men talked to one that was really nice, and I talked to one that was really nice. Really great ladies. Here's my thing. Yet, and somebody I follow, they promoted her out the wazoo, and the girl they were talking to mentioned that. It's odd to me because yet it's the old saying, you know where your bread is buttered. But at the other flip side of that coin, without promoting the others, that the one that you're helping out the most, the other ones don't get traction or get bounce back, get a like the residual from that or the the other fandom. Because without that, you're not going to go walk up to somebody and start having a conversation. You're not going to ask them about their stuff. It that was the one thing I do feel like the cosplayer community is going to kind of get dangerous with. And when I talked to the one I was talking to the most, she talks about how people get into it to make money, get clout, all that kind of stuff. I think that's going to be dangerous down the road because that's not the reason people do what they do. They do it to enjoy it. And she even mentioned that. Sorry for going that tangent, Deon. Go ahead with what you're going to say. Or Chris, one of y'all, go ahead and what you're going to say because I did go on a tangent
Look,
there.
I mean, bro, even your tangent was not unfounded because I mean you would think that the contracts would be better to order and to promote the people that's actually going to be there to bring in the crowds that you want. See, I would have thought with as much space as there was that there would have been more, well, more. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But since there
Mm-hmm.
wasn't, it's like, well, I mean, there's really nothing. I mean, okay, basically, if you don't promote your people, you're not going to get the kind of crowds that you want. And that convention center is capable of holding a lot more people than that was there. So I kind of wonder, if, are they paying too much to have that big of a venue while not being able to bring in that many people?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're not wrong. Like I said, I think it's interesting because they use all three floors. That convention is I think over 200 square 2.5 million square meters or something. It's a big convention. Like the actual space of the convention is huge. Dion, go ahead.
All right.
What were you gonna say?
Um. Yeah. No. Everything Chris just said.
I mean, yeah, yeah. I,
But I mean, on top of that too, it's like there was the way it was set up. Like you had your voice actors and stuff on one side, and you had your cosplayers on the other side. Um, and they were all separated. All the cosplayers were separated by the door. But I I don't want to say it was intentional, but there was clear separation from the bigger cosplayers to the more growing cosplayers, and which is okay, cool. But then if you're also going to separate them, maybe promote them a little more so that they can get a little attention on their side. Because at the end of the day, they're here for to be able to sell their merchandise and support their fans who support them and all of that just as much as everyone else is. But I digress because I don't want to put too many people out there and put their business all out there. And if they like it, I love it. But just as a person who has been the vendor, vendor, who has been a vendor,
Correct.
it makes you not want to return when you don't feel respected or appreciated for just being a vendor. Whether you like me or not, if you invite me or I sign up for this, you should treat me with some type of respect. But
Well said, my friend. And here's the thing: I'll put a cherry on top of that cake, and it's kind of sad. I think that's the thing that's gonna probably have to change down the road for a lot of vendors. I saw a vendor I haven't seen in like 4 or 5 years, or 3 or 4 years. The last time I saw him, it was I think the year before I took Chris and Drew to Acon. But it was funny. It was a vendor that had all the videotapes. And Chris remembers this. All the videotapes in the boxes, and you could see stuff on the wall.
Yep.
He was one of the best vendors I've been to because that's where I found Devil May Cry, Iron Man, all that stuff. And it's funny. It was the first time I've seen him in a while. I'm like, huh. But also, I know for them, they have one of the bigger booths, and yet I think it's also kind of weird because I remember. I don't know what the actual name of the group is for that store, but I know of the people and I know the store, and it's like they're one of the best at it because you can find pretty much anything you're looking for. But at the same point, it's also kind of funny because I have a bunch of stickers on my PC right now. I don't want to turn my camera; you won't be able to see them from here. But they're from Weeb Culture, who's also really well known in the stickers, hoodie, that space. But I also have things like I knew of the Numi booth because I've seen them on Instagram. It's kind of sad to me where you can't promote these like smaller businesses that do videotapes, stuff like that. Sword guys, the all that kind of stuff because it kind of just tells you they didn't have time to do all the promotion they wanted. But yet you support the people that you want to support, and yet you promote them because they're like Deon says, bigger people.
speaking of, to the guy, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No,
But
go
while you're
ahead.
speaking about vendors, to the sword guy who was only there on Friday, I believe it was Friday.
Friday.
You were only there
Mhm.
Friday.
I remember this.
Bro, I'm looking for you. Hit me. Hit my line. If anybody knows who that guy was, who was only there Friday, he wasn't part of the big chain that was pretending to be 7 different booths, but was on one booth.
Yeah.
It was one guy who was only there Friday. I need your information because I need that sort we talked about for the price we talked about. So yeah. Oh,
But I also, and I'm going to end this off with this before we get into Mecha-ude. I think the thing with this con is that the one goodwill thing they did is about thing I'm about to talk about that I'm asking as a question. So somebody posted on the Anmie Matsuri fan page. I want to give a big shout out to Anmie Matsuri, the partner hotels, for the badge promotion, inviting some friends that otherwise wouldn't have come, and they loved it. That says they will be buying a badge next year. Here's the one thing I'll give to this, and we did this at the end of the pod a couple weeks ago, before about a month ago on the podcast. After we did the podcast one night, we told Deon about the fact we were going to get that free badge. His face lit up, literally trying to get his face cam to work. That quote says it all, right?
yeah, just
there.
throw me out there like that, B. I understand.
I'm sorry. I do it because I want to prove a point. I want to prove a point because with this, that quote says it all. When you gained new fans across the state of Texas, across the country, whatever. And
Yeah,
the
because
funny
now I'm
part
going
is,
back next year.
correct. And this was all our first time going to AM. This is my 10th convention total. This was Chris's third, and this was Deon's first. I highly doubt that you've made fans for a good portion of time now, and you're not gonna lose them again. But gentlemen, I want to ask you this, and I'm gonna start off with Deon. How would you rate Anmie Matsuri from a 1 to 10?
Go ahead, Deon.
I think I would rate it a solid 7.8.
Okay, explain.
Solid 7.8. I would give it more if they had a. I would have liked for it to be a little bit more organized. The app was great. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, even the dates on the app was wrong. The times were all over the place. Um, they had a lot of events that were lined up at the same time, but they were moving events around during the show, and that ended up being moved. And
Yeah, I agree. I can see that. Chris, what would you give rating for Anime Matsuri?
other than that, I mean,
So the actual anime part in the convention center was great. But the
Okay.
one thing that really kind of rubbed me the wrong way, and it was a great promotion, just like you said, Brandon, with the hotels and the extra tickets and everything. That's a great promotion. I love it.
Oh, I know what you're gonna say.
But
I know
oh
what you're gonna
yeah,
say.
because
I
I
know.
got to put them out there for this.
I know what
If
you're gonna say.
you invite more people to your hotel without having enough things for people to share rooms and enough space for people to be comfortable, then maybe you might want to like think about getting complimentary air mattresses for people because how you have rooms that are two twin beds and people are going and since you said they had to have two people in a room in order to have that ticket, it's like y'all kind of set it up for failure that way.
Deon,
But
go ahead
so
before you get. Well, I'll let Chris finish, and Deon, you can give your thoughts.
but yeah, so I'm going to give it a solid 6
Okay.
because
Okay.
like you shouldn't have to treat people that way.
This is kind of rough for me because, like I said, I've been to 10. This is 10. I ultimately believe that yeah, the convention, the anime itself, great, perfect. I do also agree with Chris. The hotel part of that, the whole thing was annoying. It's also kind of bad because I think it's funny. Like two twin beds for three guys. Yeah, no. It's funny. I've only done that one other time, and that's for a church thing. And then, yes, I ended up having a pillow in between the person I was with, sleeping in the same bed with, and something like that. It was not great. Um, I would have to give this like a, I don't know. I think like a five, like a 7. Ultimately, that part should be fixed. And partially why, I think because we ended up going to try to get an air mattress. We ended up buying one just on a whim to help our friend out because he was not going to be sleeping. We were like, you don't need to be sleeping on the floor. There's no way. Ending up, he did because the air mattress ended up had the thing we had to do with the air mattress. But it was like, okay, we're doing this. We're going to figure it out. Fine. Um, do I think it's going to be something where they're going to change in the future? No, I don't think they're going to change it. They might have to, but ultimately, they'll. It's one of those places. Marriott Marquis was very nice. It's one of the nicer hotels downtown, which is actually kind of surprising. It's a Marriott, but they have that. It has that style of like upscale, like 5-star. It was that kind of nice. It was weird, but we kind of just had to go with the flow for it. But I think like Chris, I think like Deon said, like I'm gonna say, we're definitely going back to AM next year. That is
Oh
a
yeah, we're going back.
that's a guarantee. But I think the small things can be fixed. I think the small things will be fixed, but it's just gonna take some time. Deon, you did disconnect. What were you gonna say as we were talking about the hotel thing? I know you had a thoughts on that.
no, I was just straight facts. Chris was spitting straight facts.
Yeah.
Disrespect respectful, unreliable staff. Hey, except for I think his
The
name was
bellhop
Johnson.
yeah,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
bellhop we met.
bro was cool.
He was a cool dude, and he was so nice. It was like most. That was the other thing too. Most of the people we met who were nice were really nice. Were just people that kind of like were like, oh, he was like talking to us about where we're from and everything, and he said I have family in Richmond, so I know that it. It's the kind of thing where genuinely being okay. They were generally he was trying to generally be helpful and try to help us out. And it's like okay, not his fault. Something just
And
not the way they do things. Go
and
ahead.
I'm being goofy because I was irritated our check-in day, but everybody that was there was absolutely sweet. They handled everything with respect and responsibility. I mean, I can't fault the staff for the things, the hotel policies and stuff like that. But shout out
Oh
to the
no,
staff. They
no,
actually were accommodating for a few things and not accommodating for a lot of things. But
yeah, yeah, fair enough.
you know, so
But let's get into the one big thing that we did while we were out there. Mecha-ude was an anime that was premiering out there. They did three. They did that, My Dear, and one other anime. I forget the other anime it was, but the My Dear one is going on right now. So they did 2 episodes from the season in the same season, but kind of ahead. The other one, same thing. The other one was like what they did for Mecha-ude, new anime showing it off. I will say this with Mecha-ude, it was really interesting because the way they showed this off and the way they talked about it made it feel like this was brand new for them, and it was because they said they used Kickstarter, they did all this kind of stuff with it. Um, I'm sorry for Chris for this. What do you think about Mecha-ude, Chris?
I think that it may be podcast worthy for our next season. However, there have been so many other shows. The competition is going to be stiff. But however, I think that Mecha Udemy might be able to stick into because their show had a lot of good premise in it. It had something that you wanted to follow, a storyline that you wanted to see happen. So I'm interested. I would like to see the show flourish.
Deon, what was your big takeaway from Mecha-ude?
you mean Cyberpunk Digimon? Yo,
I mean, I could compare it to Kill la Kill and Kill la Kill mixed with like Jet Set Radio. So yeah, I get it. Like it had that
like
vibe to it.
it was like arm, I choose you. No, it was cool, man. I enjoyed the fact that they had the content producer there and the director himself there. Um, it was dope to be able to kind of get the ground floor on something that wasn't boring. Like it seemed like it's gonna have a good story. It left me with a bunch of questions to want to see more. So
Mhm.
it did its job as far as the premiere did. So I was excited about that.
I
I
will
mean, the
say this.
room was freezing, but
Yeah,
other than
yeah,
that,
yeah. It's pretty cold. I
I think I
will
was
say with
cold this entire weekend. We were
yeah,
there.
you see, yeah, yeah. It was
I just
one thing
couldn't
I will
warm up
say.
the entire week.
I will say if you go to Anmie Matsuri, if you're a very cold natured person, going into a building like that, you're gonna get frozen. Coming outside, and we live in Texas, you're gonna burn up. It's the reverse of somebody who's very. If you're not a cold natured person, but you're a warm natured person, you're gonna sweat it easily. So it's like the balance between both. Um, I will say Mecha-ude was so much fun. I love the character designs. I love the way they handled certain things. I love the thing about our main character who is not like he's not an idiot, but he's not like understanding what's actually going on. He's kind of just there
He's
because of the
Naruto.
thing. Yeah, yeah. He's just
Basically.
there to see what's going on and has to be in that situation. I love the villains in this. I love they showed us part of the like force he's gonna be on or be helping with. It it feels like they have a ground floor ready to go for the first 2 episodes. And they mentioned in the premiere that the whole show is done. The first season's done. So think about that. It's like, okay, if this show does good, they can start a second season pretty well. Also, the fact that they started this on Kickstarter.
Don't put it on Crunchyroll or Netflix because it'll all get leaked. Sorry.
Yeah. That was the other big story that came out this week, which kind of, as we're driving to Houston, by the way, that was funny. That was sad. We'll get in that next week a little bit because I think that's going to be one we're going to talk about a little bit. But I think the bigger thing I will take with Mecha-ude is also, it feels like it was a passion project, and it also feels like they wanted to build something interesting. It doesn't have the same feel of certain shows, but it has a kind of similar feel. It doesn't feel like it's out of place.
That's the biggest takeaway from it for me too, is that it felt like a real passion project, and you don't get
Yep.
that too much anymore. Um you get
Money
clout
hungry
chasing,
people.
money hungry, exactly.
Uh-huh.
So to see a project that comes from the heart and like just the creativity behind it, it's worth a good watch. Even if it's not in like your top, it's worth for you to just go sit down and watch it.
I will say this: when it comes on, it's, I think they said October, Chris, if I remember correctly.
Yep. The
October,
October season, fall season.
fall season. I think it's going to be one of those sleeper hits because it has that. If you've played like a Jet Set Radio, you've seen Kill a Kill, or like even Deon said the couple he mentioned, it has that vibe of like, okay, we really can, you can really enjoy this. The action's fun. The people and the way they handle certain things or handle situations is fun. It's there for the fan of an action show. And another thing I think Deon brought up, which I think is going to be the bigger thing about this, is the fact that, oh, if they can build up the main character, he gets new powers, new abilities with the arm and things, and kind of he builds up, but also the abilities with the arm builds up and all this kind of stuff, it will work tremendously. Um, yeah, I think this is going to be one of those sleeper shit shows. It's one of the shows I think we're going to be really into later down the road. Um, I will ask for this. This doesn't have to be super really thing, but I want to know with those first two episodes. I'm asking on this first. What would you what would you rate those first two episodes? I know they're not fully done. Um, what would you give that rating for those first two episodes, Deon or Chris? Whoever want to go first.
Oh, so for the completed 2 episodes, I hope that they show it like the way they did with the first 2 episodes combined, because that was really good. Even though I felt like I might could have tell the difference between the episodes. So, but I'm gonna give it a solid 7, man, because it was good. It had a story to follow. It had some interesting characters with one of your main characters kind of being a comic relief. So it
Mm.
kind of gets rid of the idea of you just have an extra character just for the sake of an extra character.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would also say I agree with you there. I hope this is like a longer. It is two. I think the lady even says it's two separate. It's 2 episodes, but I hope they
Hmm.
do it in one where it's like a 45-minute thing where it's just one long 45-minute episode where you can just watch it, kind of get to it, and do that.
Yeah.
I would have to give this like a. I would agree with you, 7.5, 7.6, somewhere in there. I think it was good enough. I think it was fun enough. It has that. Oh yeah, I would definitely watch this again easily, no problem. Um, but I think, yeah, that's one on the list. I think for fall, that's going to be one of those sleeper hits. Go ahead, Deon.
No, I was just gonna say I agree with both of you guys. Um,
Mm.
it's cyberpunk Naruto vibes, like cyberpunk Digimon, where you got the main character vibing out with. I don't want to say too much because, like, heck, we got a sneak peek. So you guys want to find out more? Go watch it. Yeah.
There we go. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's definitely worth the watch. Like I said, it won't be like your favorite anime in the world, but it's definitely up there with um those animes that you can let your uh, you can let your kids watch it
Because
and
it's not
be
that
able to
bloody.
enjoy it yourself too. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
It has more of that kid vibe where it's more fun than more serious. And you can tell when they're doing the more fun stuff, they're like, oh, they're playing around with the world and the
yeah,
characters are
it
making
gives
them
me
more serious.
Saturday morning cartoon vibes, like when
Yeah.
Yu-Gi-Oh and GI Joe come on, and then bam. Mecha-ude.
But let me know what y'all think in the comments of kind of like our little snippet stuff you've heard from us. What do you kind of think about how we talked about it? Like they said, it's going to come out in October. I think it's going to be early in that fall season. It's going to be hit the ground running. I think it's going to be one of those ones that people are going to enjoy. Yeah, it was kind of cool to see a premiere for once. I've never done that before. Never got to see something before everybody else. It was just kind of something interesting. But let's get into the charts before we get into the episodes tonight. This first chart's from Anime Corner. So this is week 6, August 2nd through August 9th. Oshinoko season 2 is at 1. I Hide My Feelings in Russian is at 2, dropped a spot. Too Many Loser Heroines went up 2 spots to 3. Kona from Me to You season 3 is at 4. Days with My Stepsister is at 5, dropped 2 spots. The Elusive Samurai went up 2 spots to 6. Fairy Tale 100-Year Quest dropped 3 spots to 7. Suicide Squad Isekai went down 2 spots to 8. And No Longer Allowed in the World dropped 2 spots to 9. And 2.5 Dimension Seduction came in at 10. Deon, what's your big takeaway from these charts? Because it seems like we're kind of getting solidification, but at the same time, nothing's really hitting based on this.
Yeah, it seems like everything that was in the top 10 are still there, pretty much. Like nothing's gone. It's just all kind of shifting around a little bit. The only thing that I'm irritated about, of course, you guys both probably guess which one I'm irritated about. Anybody want to take a stab at it?
I'm gonna say Suicide Squad.
No.
It's the number 1 spot.
Exactly.
I was gonna go. Yep. Kind of figured that was gonna be it.
And you guys got confirmation. I wasn't the only one. You guys got confirmation at the convention that it shouldn't be where it's at right now. People are sick, bro. Yeah. Other than that, bro, it feels like there's a lot of anime on here that have been lower names on the radar of a lot of people, but they seem to be doing very good.
Chris, Chris, what's your big takeaway from this?
Bro, I haven't been watching Iron How's It Feeling, so I'm sure it's decently well. I haven't seen some of these other ones on here because they, besides like Fairy Tale and Elusive Samurai and ignoring Suicide Squad, these are the dramas that you see always kind of hit the top spot every season because people are drama heavy, and I can't understand why.
I will say this. I will say this. Oshinoko season 2, I can see it, but all like Deon said, like other people said, it's kind of weird. That's up there. Russian, I understand. It's pretty. I haven't kept up with it. Days of My Sister being at 5. Days of My Stepsister being at 5. I don't really know much about it. Elusive Samurai is very good. Very good. I think that should be higher. Suicide Squad 8, can see why. Makes sense. 2.5 deduction. 2.5 Dimension Seduction should be higher. And it's funny, if you look at the rest of the list, like My Hero's 11, My Dear is 12, Wands and Swords is 13, Tower of God is 14, Pseudo Harem is 15, Catholic Terrace is 16, The Time I Get Reincarnated Slime is 17. What does nobody remember in this world is 18, which is actually really good. Failure Frame should be higher, is at 19. And then the Magic Girl and the Evil Lieutenant uses to Alchemy is at 20.
You know what? It sounds like 11 through 20 is the actual top 10. That's what it sounds like to me.
Yes.
Sadly, I don't disagree. Like that's
add Elusive Samurai, Fairy Tale, and No Longer Allowed in Another World. And take out a couple of those random ones, and you got a great top 10 right there.
But it's also like
I digress.
if I kept going, VTuber Legends 25, which I think should be higher. I Parry's 26. The strongest magician in the Demon Lord's army was a human, 28. That's kind of odd. Nier Automaton 31, Code Geass 32, Muka Punch, which I need to continue to watch. I love the first couple episodes of that. That's really good. Like Bye Bye Earth plus size. It tells me the stuff that we all like is kind of lower on the list because it doesn't hit, it doesn't have that hook. But yet, like Deon mentioned, 11 through 20 has probably the best hooks of everything, and it should work out better, but it doesn't. I think that's gonna be weird because now we're going into the fall. We're about to go into the fall, and the fall is gonna be different than the summer.
The fall looks stacked with nothing but action-packed shows.
That's the scary part. That's scary. That's insane. Like that's just nuts. But let's, Chris, go into the other chart real quick. But before we do that, get up Dungeon People episode 5.
So, okay, so starting at number 1, unfortunately, we have Oshinoko again at number 1. At number 2, come on, zoom in. At number 2, Too Many Losing Heroines, which is, I think, stayed at, it was previously number 4. Let's see, what is that? Anya How the Feelings in Russian is number 3. 4 is Tower of God. 5 is My Hero. 6 is Wand and Sword. 7, My Dear Friend Nokathon. 8 is Pseudo Hero. 9, Reincarnated as a Slime. And 10, the Montagati series.
Just looking at that list, you notice a difference right off the bat. Because if you look at the rest of that list, the first thing that's off this list quickly is you see that Oshinoko's at 1, but then from 2 to 8 is Pseudo Harem, My Dear, it's things that are actually have some basis behind them. But the funny thing is, nothing feels out of place. Like this ranking seems more normal than the one for Anime Corner, and that's just, I don't know if that's just me. Like I could be wrong. Yeah, this is odd. This is odd. I've never really, I think Summer Season's always been weak because summer's just not something people watch, but it's just kind of weird. But Deon, what's your big takeaway from that list?
I know Deon's probably already mad because Oshinoko is again at number 1. That's the first thing. And I'm sure he'll pop on if I say that. Let's see. Now, the one thing I did notice on this list is that they somehow, for some reason, have My Dear Friend Nokathon at both number 7 and at number 11. But taking a closer look,
Isn't one a spinoff series? Is that why?
Nope, they're both the same, but they're 2 different episodes.
Oh, do they do different episodes for in the rankings too? Because I think they came out twice. They came out back to back. Something weird about something about that.
But that says a lot. That says a lot if 2 episodes are beaten or one is in the top 10 and one is not.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It is kind of crazy because I think one's kind of crazy because I think it's just like what they want for that. But I think the other thing that you kind of can tell is that you can tell that they're really trying to push the dramas, but the dramas aren't really hitting as well. They're hitting enough, but not hitting as well. We'll kind of more or less go see that as the season goes on. I don't think the season's solidified yet. I think the season's still kind of catching up, but it's going to catch up eventually. That's going to be the big point. But let's do this. Let's get into the let's get into Dungeon People, because we'll watch that one first because Deon's still on his way to do something, and then by the time he gets here, we can do Shy, because Shy is the bigger one I think this week for episode wise, because if we're getting into that fight, so we'll get into the Dungeon People first. We'll watch it, then we'll kind of talk about it, then we'll do into Shy. So I hope you have episode 5 of Dungeon People up. In a second, I will say 3, 2, 1, and then we'll go. And Chris, you ready?
Yep.
All right. And 3, 2, 1, let's go. Episode 5, Coworkers and Family. Oh, the giant lizard boss.
What's your timestamp?
36, 37, 38, 39, 30, 40, 41. Do I need to pause?
No, just keep counting.
45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51,
Good.
52.
Good.
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry about that, folks.
Is that purple fire?
This is Aura.
Oh, that aura is strong. Was she going to actually fight this thing or practice against it?
Yeah, apparently she's going to fight.
Fight. All right. I still say this is one of the catchier songs of the season, to be honest.
You think so?
I think it's still one of the catchier songs of the season.
I mean, I admit it is catchy, but I can't think of any song that's just as catchy.
I think it's catchy because it has a simple premise, but it doesn't feel. It's not one I would dance to or put in my playlist, but it's catchy enough where I could probably go, okay, I could have it on my playlist list every once in a while. I would listen to it every day.
If it was a song in Walmart, I wouldn't mind hearing it. I'll put it that way.
Repeat that one more time.
If it was a song in Walmart, I probably wouldn't mind watching it then.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. What's the other thing too? We've noticed none of the songs really have been hitting either, as much as they probably should.
Nope.
Oh, she let her hair down.
Oh, she learned how to use the same skill from being a skeleton.
Uh-huh. Oh, that's evolving. Okay.
So she's kind of moving off of senses.
Mm-hmm. How did she? Oh, wow. She dodged that and then tried to go into the body with it scaly, so it's going to cut through.
Yep, they made the reference. Nice.
That's a blast and a half. Jeez.
Oh, literally in half.
Oh. Right in the eyeball. Ooh, she'd be dead. Ooh.
And yet that was a real battle.
You would be dead normally, though, if that happened.
Man, what? Point blank range? Yeah.
We had a little fight. I hate feeling pain. I'm just going to pardon you. Okay.
I mean, she did chop off his whole thumb, so
And stabbed him in the eye.
yeah.
Well, so she's figuring out that she can't get hurt until somebody uses magic against her.
Well, no, it's the opposite.
Oh, she can't hurt others. Until she...
Well, she's learning to how to use her own magic to inflict more damage onto enemies that have harder, that are also either protected by magic or harder, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, imagine. And she's like, it's kind of weird you're saying that so calmly.
Well, we've all had managers like that, so
Yeah. Making treasure that go in the treasure chest. It's actually a thing. Okay. Interesting. Whoa. Why is the room such a mess?
it makes sense though.
Yep. That makes sense. That's most dungeons that way.
Yep.
As you get higher up the dungeon, you get better items.
Mm, same thing for any game, really.
Yep. As you get higher level, you find better weapons. Yep.
Or especially when you go into new areas.
Yep. That's also true. A bandana with cooling power. That's kind of interesting.
I would like that. I want
That was
that.
actually
I
pretty
want that
cool.
in real life. I want that in real life, especially
Yep.
here in Texas.
Yep. Absolutely. She's shocked they agree on something.
Well, she's shocked that they actually had like a conversation about what she's supposed to be doing
Yep.
without her, even though she's supposed to be explaining what she's doing. You know what
No
I mean?
way. So they're doing the job that she's supposed to explain to 30, but they've already had a plan to what to do.
Which happens to me at work a lot now.
Yeah. You're ahead of what you're actually supposed to be doing.
Well, it's like not that. It's like sometimes I need for things to be explained a different way,
Mm-hmm.
and as soon as I hear it the way I need it to be heard, it instantly clicks.
Yep. Oh, so they dig up the ore to make the items. We see.
Yep.
That quick. Well, you've seen her power actually. That's a good. You've seen her what she can do. I think your theory is slowly coming true. By the way, I think that's her dad.
I don't know. We haven't seen any more other hints.
Yeah. But the conversation they just had about what she needs to do, it's and the title of this is family, family. There's something else.
Well, right now they're showing how all them and all the monsters are family.
Correct.
Yep, that's me a lot at work too.
Mm-hmm.
They'd be like, "You have any? Does anybody have questions?" I'd be like, "I haven't fully swallowed everything y'all just said to have questions yet."
Nope. You need to get the text context first before you really ask anything.
Yeah, because they have it's so. Oh man, let me not get into that.
Wait, he tweaked the center of gravity to make it easier to use for her.
No, he didn't say for her. Just he wanted to see if he can tell the difference.
Oh,
Hmm.
so they were heavier.
Well, have you ever seen them balance a blade before?
Mm-hmm. I have.
Yeah, so that's all they're doing. She's asking like he's balanced the blade differently on those two.
Mm-hmm. But you assume each blade, when they're balanced, are similar to each other somewhat.
Maybe similar in size,
And weight, but not as how they are shown off.
right? They both can be 20 pounds, but the of where you put the extra 5 to 10 pounds at is based off of the work that you put into it.
Mm-hmm. I will say she has an interesting looking blade because it's so different than the ones she. Was that about? Hmm. Oh, so we're getting the context why she hired her.
Mm.
Wow, that was a context we didn't really. Kind of like her dad parted ways with her.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they are telling this story perfectly. Huh. We got that information, and she kind of stopped our main character from talking.
Hmm.
Like right in the middle of her like inner thought. It's kind of interesting. Okay. Chris, I'll let you do this. Make it pretty short and sweet. Go through it, and we'll talk about it.
I mean, bro, this was just a whole storytelling show. I mean,
Yeah.
we got our action in the front where she faces the dragon and chops off his thumb, stabs him in the eye. We learn that she can still use some of the powers that she learned by being a skeleton and things like that. It was cool, nice little action piece. Kind of after this is we kind of get this story about after she talks to the dungeon master, she goes and works with I can't his name is really hard to pronounce right now, but
I think it's
she goes to
Range.
talk
Oh, yeah, one guy.
Brandon Rock or something like that.
Yeah.
But the thing is, in learning how to do the things that he tosses her at night just to kind of get a feel for her skills in the way that she talks about it and everything, and then thinks about her own. Fires him up as a blacksmith. Now, but then she gives us this whole context on the dungeon master and her story of why she hired her, and then her relationship with the predecessor of the dungeon, which is really interesting and unique. I definitely had to give it that. But here towards the end, as she as she's talking with us, she's trying to get information about Rand, whatever this guy's name is. She's trying to understand him and doing all of that. And then we just kind of learn that she really doesn't know too much about him, other than he's like family.
Yep. I love the way the story is going. I think the story is more fun. I think the story is getting kind of deep. We're getting more stuff that we haven't got prior. But also, then on the flip side of that coin, we're getting a lot of that extra. The extra is the flashback to the conversation with the guy. I can't say his name right now. I think Rengay or something like that. Then we go to her, start talking to her, then we get another flashback showing what the rest of that conversation was with him. All that stuff kind of blends in together so well. I think it's not like crazy. Ultimately kind of fun. I don't know. Like this show's a sleeper hit. This one's a sleeper hits on High Dive, and one of the sleeper hits in general. It should get better praise, I think, but it doesn't because I think it's not one of those ones that's going to keep your attention as much as you would think, but it does because they teach you about a dungeon too along the way. And ultimately, I think that's going to be the big thing about this show is like it teaches you about dungeon, but also gives you the stuff about the main character, the dungeon head, and all that kind of stuff. I would have to give this like a. If I had to rate this, I would give this like an 8. This episode was pretty good, really well done. What would you give it, Chris?
So, like, just like you were kind of saying, like everything flowed really well in the show, and everything that they kind of said and they did really gives context to how dungeons may or may not work, and then the idea that they still left it open ending for what they call living dungeons is a whole nother story that just gives more context to dungeons themselves,
Uh huh.
which is unique in its own way. So
Very
I
much.
am happy to give this show a solid 8.1.
Okay. Very much so. I will say this. I think this show will get praise after it comes out fully because people go back and watch it because they find it. Oh, it got good traction and stuff. But at the same time, I think the thing is you don't need a deep premise to get a show to make sense. You just need a decent premise, and that's the big thing with the show. There's a decent premise there that actually makes sense, and that's going to be the big thing I think for the rest of the summer season, but also for this fall. You need a show to have a decent premise. And that premise is good, then people will watch. If that premise is not good, people won't watch. But let's go to Crunchyroll and head over to Shy. Shy is getting into the part where we're finally seeing what happened with the bubble and all that kind of stuff. So we're gonna have that to see tonight. But also, Shy's in that weird spot because I think it's finally kicking into the story, a story we haven't seen much about, but a story that's there. Um, um, I also think too. I think we're finally going to see what is the true thing of this season. What's that big thing? But we'll see that in this episode. But in a second, I will say 3, 2, 1, and then we get going. Chris, you ready?
Let's go.
All right. In 3, 2, 1, let's go. Episode 18 of Shy. Nothing is permanent. Oh, the conductor thing. We were left off at this part.
Yep. The
That whole
trolley.
dilemma. That whole dilemma. That's a weird dilemma to try to figure out.
Anybody who has seen the American show called The Good Place has seen this. Have seen this play out.
Yeah, a lot of shows do this like dilemma thing, or if you ever read like a test question that talks about it, they always use this as one of those like things.
hmm But but you know that, so everybody that knows is that there's no easy way out of this.
Nope. I will say this opening is also really good.
It is a nice little rock band that they got going on this one.
Correct. I will say the song fits this opening, but I also will say this. It kind of has the same kind of vibe like Dead Mount Death Play, where the song fits the opening, but also had the creepy imagery. This has the very like colorful imagery, kind of like very upbeat imagery, and it has a little bit of creepy, but the creepy is just there to show you off the villain part of it. But it works for that.
Well, especially once you learn the character's backstory and what they've gone through and stuff that
Yeah,
made them the villain. Like, it really gives context that the world that they create for them.
correct. Just do a handstand into like the splits and then stood up. Okay, man, she's that Joker character. So basically, a train can split in two. It can split and almost run to another train. Great. I love that.
I mean, but at least she's trying to do something, though.
At least she's trying to do something. She's doing the Spider-Man thing where she's like trying to, force it. Oh, she's about to. Why would you do that? That's a little much.
Joker.
Yeah, that is Joker for you. There's no great answer for this question. There's no great answer how to figure this out.
No, that's why this part is not necessarily for kids. Like, this is PG-13. Because this has no easy answer.
Oh.
Yep. Well, you caught it, Brandon, doing the Spider-Man thing.
Yeah, I did call that, which is that's a weird thing to do. Because we referenced this. Perfect. They did it. She had a backup plan.
Well, no, that's the answer to the riddle, though. To stop the train.
Oh, they're all mannequins. What the?
Ah, that's messed up.
She mess around like nothing.
Joker.
Now that's disgusting. Ooh.
Okay.
So that's her friend, like a pet rock kind of thing. Oh, jeez. Oh, by the time we get to the end, everybody's gonna be by themselves. So each time somebody's gonna be left behind. No, that's kind of actually true. What the? Oh. So she thinks they can all be saved, but not. There we go. We're about to get that backstory. Chris, are they doing a yin and yang with swords?
Yep.
Oh wow, that's an interesting way. Younger twin. Okay, we already kind of knew that. All right, where's it gonna take this? Wait, I'm actually like her though. Why would you keep the blade around if you knew one thing's path down the path of evil? But he's right. I get what he's meaning, but just break the cycle.
That's a whole conversation, Brandon.
Well, I know, but it's funny the way they put it because in this case, you can break that cycle of that being a problem.
No, but it's a reason why it can't be broken, why the cycle can't be broken.
Mm-mm-mm. Oh, a birch. Got the bird back to health. So this is the good sister, I'm assuming, right?
No. Well, it might be the good sister because I'm remembering their hair color now.
Yeah, okay. Isn't she the good sister, and then the other one's the one that got? Ow, that's cold.
Training done. Or was I right?
Is she about to do something stupid though? She's about to do something very unreasonable. Wait, did she just disappear?
Yep.
Wow. Oh.
So I was right. Okay.
Well, yeah. Who the world are you? Oh, he had no family. He was just living in the village that just got burned.
Yep.
Oh. Wait, she trained a bear?
Pretty much.
How the so she was jealous always.
Yep.
That seems odd.
But just like the old man said, times will change, good and evil change.
Yeah.
Opposing ideas.
Oh, she killed her master and took both swords. Killed the bears. And the ring from
Yeah.
Sigma. Wow.
And that's why she has the heart problems.
Correct.
And she left that blade there. Wow. They really did the whole Naruto thing.
Yeah, they did. Oh, the angel. Correct. I'm left speechless. This was a wild ride. And yet it did it in a way that was awesome. I'm gonna make this short and sweet because I'll do this in two parts. The first part of this was we got the finish of what we had with the Joker lady with the train stuff, which we ended up finding out the train that she had started going down the track was just mannequins in it, kind of just for having fun. Wasn't really there to hurt people. Wasn't really there to do anything wrong. So they left her with the Russian hero in there and try to do their little battle. Then we get this long walk and conversation about what they need to do next. Ultimately, the Shinobi girl says that I lived in this village. This village was with my sister. We got taught by the master. The master taught us about these two swords. One was the sword of the gods. The other was sort of heart purity, yin and yang, basically. And then she goes into this long story. Before I go into that, though, Chris, what do you think about this first half?
Okay, bro. So first half, just getting back into the groove of things, and we are back into the trolley problem, bro. The only logical thing to make this show still a kid show is to stop the train. And yeah, they feel like they did the Spider-Man thing, which was cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Oh, yeah.
okay. So, but I digress. That fails in comparison to the second part. So go ahead.
This second part, basically, the Shinobi girl that's been helping Shao and helping all the rest of the heroes out, explains that, I was part of this village. We learned about what these two swords mean. The master tells each one has to go their own path. She goes, why does that to be the case? Why does one lead down the path of good? Why does the other lead down the path of evil? All this stuff. The younger little sister was jealous of the older because the older did so much strong and fast and everything. She's gotten really good at being a shinobi. And she trained the bear. She accidentally hurt that bird, but it got it back to life and health. She told the kids not to squish the bug. She was just jealous of her sister. This bug thing was really the turning point when she tells the kids that she's don't squish the kids don't, and they run off. Her sister walks up, says, "What are you doing? Why are you not training more?" And he's like, "Aren't I was done with my work? What are you? Aren't you done? Are you done training?" She says, "Yes." Ultimately, her sister takes her by the hand, or tries to hit her with her, slaps her with her hand. Other sister grabs it, flips her over into like a judo throw, and puts her on the ground. And the younger sister's mad. She's running off. She doesn't really want to talk anymore. It feels so impactful. Then we learn about why the other guy is there. The other guy is there to be he left the village he was from. He didn't have family, and then he wanted to learn from somebody. So he learned under the older sister. Ultimately, or he learns from the younger sister, but then ultimately the older sister teaches the bears to be her like companions. The bears learn, all this kind of stuff. They become good friends. Everything is going well. They're having a good time. They're having harmony. Ultimately, what happens is we see the fire that happened in the village next to them. That fire happened. Everybody tried to escape, which was actually their own village. Their village gets put to fire, and everybody tried to escape. But we find out later the younger sister took both blades, stabs the master, is wearing one blade on the back, holding the other, takes the other blade, stabs into her older sister, has the weird looking colored eyes, but she has the purple ring, which signifies Sigma was around. Pulls the ring out, pulls the sword out. Older sister's laying in a pool of her own blood. The ninja guy tries to come save her. Couldn't really do much because she's going out unconscious. Then we go back to the present time. The present time, she's like, I don't know why my sister's doing this. I don't know why she's so sad. I don't know what's going on, but I had to do something. Ultimately, she needs to do something. Shad's like, we'll figure something out. Don't worry about it. Maybe we'll figure out why she's so sad and what's going on. But ultimately, we'll do something for her. And it ends right there. But ultimately, what happens right before we see them about to continue on, we see the angel girl come down and goes, "Let's get ready for your dreams." And it's just like, man, this is a gauntlet. They've gone through two of the evils already. They're going through one more. They have to go through others. They have one more, two more before they get to the sister. This ending was so impactful. It was crazy. Chris, what do you think about the second half of this?
Okay, so despite everything that Deon might feel about this show, this is where I feel like it's really starting to come around because now they're putting the pieces into place.
Correct.
Like you're filling in the backstory and everything, and now it's like, oh, okay. Like we already kind of knew a few things, but now seeing it, it's like now you see everything come full circle.
Yep.
Like it's like and like Brandon, just like you thought we were talking about before when we was talking about that scene, like which girl was which, and I was like, wait a minute, no, the one that's seemingly really good right now is gonna end up being the bad sister, and the only reason I can tell was because of the story of exactly what he said. Because sometimes good and evil, the thoughts changes depending on the ways of the world.
Correct.
You see what I'm saying? Like That was one of those deep, meaningful things that they said it so quick, but you wouldn't really understand it until you know the premise of it.
Correct. Very much so.
So
It's crazy to me that they did this so well, and they did this without really like slowing the pace, anything like that. They just told the story of the Shinobi girl and her sister perfectly. That's crazy to me. I'm sorry to cut you off, Chris. What were you gonna say?
no, but that was just it. It was just like, and then the way they portrayed it, like, bro, I was not expecting the scene where her sister was the reason why her heart was as weak as it was either.
Yeah, I didn't expect that. I
Like,
expect to see the purple ring with like from Sigma. All this stuff's connecting now. You're like, oh wow.
but then that kind of gives you a sense like that wasn't that long ago.
No, it wasn't. Maybe maybe a couple months. Not even
Maybe
that.
6, maybe a year at the most.
At the most. Yeah. I want to see where this show ends up now because episode 19 is going to be interesting. Episode 20 is going to be interesting. We only have like 6 more episodes left, I think. But Chris, what would you give Shy episode 18 for a rating?
I'm going to give it a solid 8.4.
Ooh. Okay. Okay.
Like you're really starting to give me what I'm looking for, that story that makes it unique. Like but as far as our main character goes, I still need to see some courage out of her.
Yes. Which Deon would probably agree with as well. Deon would probably agree
Yeah.
with as well. I would have to give this episode, I have to agree with you, 8.5, 8.6. So I'll say 8.6, a little bit higher. But yeah, the backstory for all these characters worked well. I think you need some more from the main character, building up that confidence and stuff. Like we got through the train thing. The train thing is a building of confidence for her, even though the train thing was all mannequins from that point. But we've gotten that. We just see where it goes from here. How we end this season? How do we end up where we're gonna meet sister? All that kind of stuff. The battles. Uh, I can't wait. I can't wait. I'm looking forward to next episode. Basically, it's weird to say that because it's the first time I've said it this season, but I'm looking forward to the next episode to see where it ends up. That's going to be the big thing about this. But we'll see where it goes. Next week we'll have Shy episode 19 and Dungeon People episode 6. I hope you enjoy listening. I hope you enjoy watching this stream. I do thank Deon for joining us for the first half. I mainly wanted to do that because we wanted to get out the anime stuff, the Anmie Matsuri, our thoughts on Mecha-ude. That was really good. So I would say if you really want that part to listen to, that's the part that's going to really be interesting to most people probably. But I do think for everybody who's supporting us, it's just been kind of interesting. People come in and out, kind of watching stuff. But I think this is one of those. This is the midpoint of the season. Now we just see where it goes from here. That's the big thing about it. But we'll be back next Tuesday for that episode 69 of the Anime Dojo. I'll put this up on Spotify after it processes, and it will go up on YouTube on Thursday. But I do thank you for watching. Hope you enjoy, and hope for next time. See you.
Deuces.